Hey everyone, it's Jenny. Today I want to talk about something that's been puzzling me lately. This take, I keep hearing about Si-eun's revenge in Weak Hero Class 1's finale being implausible. And as always, everything I'm sharing is just my personal analysis as a fan, so if this deep dive feels too intense, no judgment, feel free to skip this one. So here's what's got me scratching my head. I've had friends tell me that Si-eun's explosive revenge in episode 8 doesn't make sense because why would he go nuclear for someone he only knew for 41 days? This reaction genuinely confuses me, just like when people dismiss Beom-seok as some attention-hungry Instagram addict who lost his marbles over jealousy. It makes me wonder, are we watching this story through completely different lenses? In my opinion, both viewpoints seem to miss something fundamental about what Weak Hero is trying to show us. If I had to guess, I'd say these interpretations might be overlooking the sophisticated emotional architecture that the series builds over 8 carefully crafted episodes, treating this complex psychological masterpiece more like simple plot mechanics. Now here's where things get interesting. I posted about this on YouTube, and as always, some really thoughtful and deep analysis comments came in. One subscriber made a really compelling point about what makes Si-eun's breakdown so believable. By episode 8, the guy's got absolutely nothing left in his corner. But what really caught my attention was how they spotted this brilliant parallel structure in the storytelling. The first time Si-eun goes ballistic, it's cut from the same cloth psychologically. Back then, academics were his whole universe, his North Star, if you will. When the bullies started tearing that down, he completely lost his cool. Fast forward to the finale, he's lost his lifeline. The one person who pulled him out of his self-imposed exile, feeling like it's all on him, just strips away every last bit of reason he's got left. The parallel structure between Si-eun's first explosion and his final one isn't just clever writing. It feels to me like the emotional mathematics of a boy whose entire world gets reconstructed and then destroyed. This kid's world gets built, up around Suho, then gets torn down twice as hard as the first time around. Another subscriber brought up something worth exploring about Si-eun's backstory. His father, an Olympic silver medalist in judo, was clearly disappointed that his son turned out to be frail and easily hurt. So Si-eun adapted accordingly. He became an isolated, stoic, scholastic automaton who lives in an extremely rigid world, where he denies his basic needs for food, sleep, and relationships. Then there's this gut-wrenching flashback where little Si-eun overhears his parents going at each other about whether they should have had him in the first place. Can you wrap your head around that? A kid hearing his own parents wish he'd never been born. Watching that scene, I felt like little Si-eun would have been convinced that he was unwanted after hearing that, so he goes to his room, locks the door, and does math, which became his way of dealing with the fact that his parents didn't want him. In the midst of this isolated life, a friend named Suho, literally meaning guardian, somehow finds his way to Si-eun. It happened almost poetically, through a mistaken delivery that brought Suho to Si-eun's doorstep, like fate intervening in the most ordinary way. Think about it. For someone who's been flying solo his whole life, Suho's genuine friendship was like opening the floodgates. All these emotions come rushing in at once. Surprise, gratitude, happiness, confidence, pure joy. It's this emotional tsunami that's impossible to put into words. Maybe love is the only label that fits the bill. Si-eun rocks up to an exam with a fentanyl patch stuck to his neck and still only misses one question. But when Suho goes missing on finals day, we can see Si-eun's test paper with multiple wrong answers. For a teenager who'd been on emotional lockdown for years, wasn't Suho more than just another buddy? Wasn't he living proof that Si-eun could actually connect with someone? That he wasn't some lost cause destined to be alone forever? From my perspective, when people ask, why go to the mat for someone you've known 41 days, I think they might be missing something important. When I watch those scenes, 41 days doesn't even register. What I see is a lifetime of being on the outside looking in, finally coming to an end, and then getting that lifeline yanked away. When someone's been riding solo most of their life and finally tastes real connection, losing it doesn't just sting, it confirms every worst fear they've ever had about being temporary and unworthy. Remember that scene where Suho was making deliveries and Si-eun was on the bus, and they randomly bumped into each other on the street? Suho just casually goes, "Hey, how did we run into each other here?" And just like that, he sliced through. Si-eun's carefully built walls like a knife through butter, entering his world so naturally. When Suho ends up in that coma, Si-eun doesn't just lose a mate, he loses the friend who truly made him laugh, his little hero. This might get a bit heavy, and some people might find it uncomfortable, but in my opinion. When I look back at teenagers, now as an adult there was this girl who was basically Si-eun's twin. Nose always in a book, never hung out with anyone, straight A student across the board. She parked herself right up front by the teacher's desk every single day, hunched over her work just like Si-eun. One day she let slip that she spent most of her time thinking about painless ways to check out, even though this went down ages ago. It's burned into my memory because it opened my eyes to how kids who seem to have their act together can be drowning behind the scenes. Si-eun's character rings true because students like him, the ones who look bulletproof on paper, are often the ones going under without making a sound. They've got everyone fooled with their perfect report cards while they're falling apart inside. What really gets me about Weak Hero Class 1 is how it reeled me in completely with Suho and Si-eun's bond. By episode 8, I was seeing that friendship through Si-eun's eyes, watching it turn his world upside down, give him something to hope for, show him what genuine care feels like. So when that gets ripped away, Si-eun's breakdown doesn't come across as over the top. It feels raw and painfully human. The show struck gold by not spelling everything out or slapping labels on what the boys were feeling. They left room for viewers to fill in the blanks, which is why fan discussions get so rich and layered. It's like getting a half-finished puzzle and being trusted to put the rest together yourself. Here's the bottom line. Connections don't run on grown-up timelines. They run on emotional impact. By that yardstick, 41 days of real, honest-to-goodness. Love can feel like everything, especially when you've never tasted it before. What's your take on all this? I'm not trying to justify violence here, but do you think Si-eun's response was emotionally understandable from a psychological perspective? That's a wrap on today's episode of my personal K-drama hot takes. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll catch you on the next episode.